But they did that. And Tuskegee was selected. Why was Tuskegee selected? Tuskegee was selected for one very specific reason. We had at that time, probably the largest number of college-educated African Americans as a percentage of the community anywhere in the world. Anywhere in the world. They said, so we know we got folks who can pass the test. And the test was a rigorous test. And one of the things they decided on when these gentlemen went in to do it, they took the same test that all whites did. They had the same flying standards, allegedly, that they had throughout the Air Force, or Air Corps, or Army Air Force. Our elimination rate was higher here than it was in many of the other locations. So you take what you want from that. But they were able to because they exceeded, because of the excellence of folks like Mr. Smallwood and some of those other folks who were instructors and who worked as mechanics on the airplanes. So they completed the civilian pilot training program. And then the Coffees had one. So they said, well, we want to now we'll let these folks who have flown with us, now we'll let them fly for you in the United States. And they said, no, not really. Well, that got changed. And Tuskegee was selected, and the rest is history. What's important, though, at least in my mind, is that if we decide we want to do something, we can do it. Sometimes it's constrained, sometimes it's constrained by money, and sometimes not. But the really important thing about it is if our country thinks it's important, or think we need to do it, it'll focus and do it. I was just talking to Representative Warren. Well, how difficult it was to get this resolution through, and I've done a lot of work in Congress. Used to testify 2 or 3 times a year for 3 or 4 years, and sausage making is an understatement. Some of the more difficult things we've all done. But thanks, can I get another round of applause? I mean, this lady has done something like that. But to get that done, and so that has to be done too often in Washington, but we do it. Military aviation has had a real strain. In World War I, Eugene Bullard flew and knew what he was doing, you know, but he couldn't fly in the United States. He went over and flew with the French. He got the Croix de Guerre, by the way. Outstanding. And he said, they can fly. When World War II came about, and these gentlemen and their contemporaries learned to fly, they got done flying here at Tuskegee, and they checked out and Piper Cub and PT-13, PT-17, T-6. And why don't you fly fighters initially? But they said, well, yeah, they're trained, but I'm not really sure they meet the standards. A lot more pressure to put all this money invested, and insisted that they be utilized. So they finally, I said finally, took them the better part of a year after they were completed and combat ready by all the military standards. They were selected and shipped to North Africa. They flew in North Africa and had a miraculous record. General B.O. Davis, who was off Tuskegee and not born here, he had 2 tours here. His father did, B.O. Davis Sr., in the Army, and he was part of the 9th Cavalry, which was 9th and 10th Cavalry, following the war, First World War. But those First World War folks knew enough about what being an officer was about. Prior to that, we had all the officers who were in the black or colored units, white officers. Towards the tail end, when they saw we were going to be in World War I, increasing in my then hometown, Des Moines, Iowa, they started a training program for officers, African American officers, and not just African American officers, but nurses in World War II. And Bill Campbell's sister was there. And I happen to know the Campbell family that is right around the corner here. But they managed to convince themselves that maybe we ought to give us a try at it. and we did. I say we as a race were given the opportunity, and they succeeded. One of the first times in the history of aviation, in the history of military, a ship was sunk by an airplane. There were 3 guys on this mission. Bill Campbell was one of them. And they strafed with bullets. They shot and sunk an Italian, by the way, Axis powers were the Italians and the Russians. Sunk the ship. They said it couldn't be done. It can't be. They had gun camera film to show you that. You see, we function based on what we have as a norm. And we have a norm which is the way we do things every day routinely. Those men of the 99th Squadron said, we can do more than that. They didn't have bombs, and so they said, well, we shoot a tank or a truck, it blows up and everything else. Why can't you do it with a ship? First time in the history of aviation in the United States. So, they went ahead and did their thing. They were still training people here at Tuskegee, though. And we trained 3 other squadrons. And they put together a group. When they were finishing up over in Africa, General Davis came back and he said, none of the folks, I won't call names, it's inappropriate to insult. And the guy who actually ended up being a 4-star, so I probably shouldn't do that. I don't think they can take my stars back, but that's all right, I'm retired. but he said, when he testified at Congress and had some hearings, he said, well, they didn't do that good a job over there and everything else. And of course, General Bill Davis was there to testify, Lieutenant Colonel Davis. He testified, and they got done, and they got the records, and we do combat records. When you fly a combat mission, we have a record, and missing reports, the pilots write the reports, and the bombers write their reports. And they said, well, these reports say this is what those guys did. At the same time, they were continuing to train that fighter group here. General Davis was successful in convincing Congress. They voted and shipped the 332nd, brand new minute 332nd, along with 99, along with 100, 301st and 302nd, over to Italy. And eventually the 99 hooked up with them there. And so they had full 4 squadrons, as most groups did. An outstanding record there. I can enumerate it for you. I won't, because it's a number of statistics and you'll get lost by the time we get through. But they had an outstanding record of escorting bombers. And there was a discussion, and it was actually in print, that they never lost a bomber on any mission. Well, some people differed with that and said, yeah, they did. Well, the records that were put out by 15th Air Force, which was their next level of command above the wing, said, and of course the Pittsburgh Courier reported, a credible source was the United States Air Force. So the Air Force says it, signs off on it. Well, it turned out that wasn't quite accurate. Turned out that they did. But by comparison, they had lost about 1/3 of the ships meaning airplanes, that the other escort squadrons did. One day they went up and shot down 3 German jets. And I was talking to one of the guys, Roscoe Brown, ended up being a president of a college. And he said, he looked up and saw these, what we call contrails. You can see them, it looks like they have steam going through out of the back of the airplane. And he looked up above and says, wow, somebody's out there, you know. So it was kind of difficult, but they figured they'd do whatever they could to save the bombers and to protect the bombers. And oh, by the way, all the bombers were white. The entire crew was 16, 17 people. And that one day, they shot down 11 airplanes.
Wow.
3 of those were the new jets. I mean, 262s. Twin engine jet. Nobody wanted to believe it. The guys flying out there, they said, there are no propellers on those airplanes. Technology changes along with a lot of other things. But they were very, very successful, and they flew more missions. Everybody else was flying 30+ missions, and these guys George, I think you flew 100, 150.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. We were talking about something I got confused. Not hard to do. Or fight about it. But they did, and that was what they were successful and became known as. Many stories about bomber pilots who their commanders had requested the red tails. They were not called Tuskegee Airmen, they were red tails. Gene Carter says they painted them red because that was the most paint they had in theater was red. So they said, chip it all the Ramatelli and chip it red and painted them. Kind of like that. But they flew 3 different airplanes, P-40s, actually 4, before they got to the 51. But they started out in P-40s in Italy and Sicily, maybe probably North Africa and Sicily. And then they went into the P-39, which the other 3 squadrons brought. And it's a strange airplane. We have a song we used to sing. Don't give me a P-39, the engine is mounted behind. The rest of it gets a little sour. If you ladies would close your ears, I can finish it. Because this was an all-male Air Force at that point. The aviation side. But, and then they got into the P-47 to do an escort, long-range escort. And because the 51s, they were able to put tanks on them, they gave them early model 51s, the old reworked ones. And then they got the brand new ones, the D-model. But they did that with tremendous success. Got here a large number of statistics I can throw at you, like I said, I'm not a numbers guy. And that's not what's important. What's important is what they did, the contribution they made, and then the minds they changed. This country learned that we can train people to do whatever it is we want them to do. All through history, blacks have fought. Many of you know about Boston Common. You know about what we did during the Revolutionary War, the entire Revolutionary War. What we did shipping Buffalo soldiers down to Cuba, part of the Spanish-American War. Shipping them over to the Philippines, because somebody asked me one day, how did the Spaniards take over the Philippines? Well, they were sailing around the world over there. Took that over. We ended up a good, strong relationship to the Philippines. But the most important thing, I think, that I'd like you to carry away from this is we had these young men and women who wanted to do something for their country. It was, quote, I call it a good war. No war is good, don't misunderstand me. But it's a war, in my perspective, where the nation can get behind. Everybody wants to win the war. I don't want to speak Japanese. I mean, learn Japanese, but I don't want to have to speak it. Didn't want to learn German. Learned some German when I was here at Tuskegee in class, man, but that's all the German I wanted, you know. But that's what it was about. Everybody wanted it. And you know, African Americans were Americans first. You know, we get around talking about Italian Americans, and we talk about English Americans, and we talk about Spanish Americans. There's some of us who had a project going at one time, we were going to change that around. American Spaniards. The Americans of Spaniard descent. Americans of Irish descent. So you put the American first, because that way that says my real dedication and commitment and loyalty is to America. Not no success, but you know, when you're a 26-year-old, you can do a whole lot of things and propose them. Thank goodness the country doesn't let you do all those things. But it was all about the unity that I was driving towards, at least in my mind's eye. We've got to get that part right. If we don't get that part right, the rest of it kind of doesn't make a whole lot of sense. One of the negatives in history is the Tuskegee syphilis experiment. I have to talk about that because too often when these gentlemen were out there flying, they got the two things mixed up. So they changed it from the Tuskegee experiment, which started out as an experiment to determine whether black agents could fly and fight and that kind of thing. There was some discussion, by the way. The Army War College had done a study saying blacks won't fight. They'll quit and run. And so that's why in World War I, Very late in World War I, we had some black officers trained. Before that, they had all white officers because they didn't think blacks would handle and manage distress. We showed them. It's about what's in your head. It's about what you've learned. You learn to be brave. You learn commitment. A lot of this comes out of the home, by the way, you know. And we had all of that. So it's just that thing that makes us a great country. Because we know what it's all about, and we're willing to do it, and we're willing to do it for the country. And that's what it's about. I look and see my great-grandson and granddaughter. We have a big family reunion. 2 weekends ago, I was with my youngest great-granddaughter. This is 2 weeks ago, no, last week. Now, this week, I guess it was the 5th. 4 months ago. But that's what it's about. What these gentlemen did, for those of us in my generation, said, we are going to give you some opportunities you've never had. We're going to prove that you can do it. Tuskegee did that. Taught people how to farm on their own. They didn't need to be workers on a plantation. They could have their own farm and work. My grandfather was part of the agriculture department here. And right over there, that building right over there, is where George Washington Carver was. He was a very good friend of George Washington Carver. And I went to preschool right there in the back end of Dorothy Hall. Because I was the education department, had I call it a trial school, experimental school, so the teachers could practice on us. Did pretty good, we all came out okay. But it's about that thing that you move to the next generation. That's what the legacy piece is all about. I'm going to wrap it up. But just keep in mind, we're going to be no better than the investment we make in the future. And the future is not some abstract thing out there. It's about the people. And it's about what we leave when we are gone. For the next generation and for posterity. When I was in the legislature the other day, just the warm feeling you had about what was happening there, it was making history. It was making history. And that's what we need to do, continue to make history in a very positive way. Open doors where they're not open. Put blocks in the doors so they can't close. And walk in. My favorite saying by Chappie James, and I'm going to wrap up on that. He says to young people, he did a lot of talking to them. We actually talked to a very patriotic speaker. But he was saying, to emphasize that point, get yourself together. And I got off active duty. I went to law school. I said, what are you going to do when you get out of law school? I said, one of these days somebody's going to need a lawyer who's black when I'm there. Was I able to do it? Yeah. Happened. Faith. Faith in the country is what I had. My mother said, you got to be out of your mind, Russ. You know? I said, time will come when somebody will need that skill if I have it. But the key to it is what wrapped up in General James, and I'll wrap up on that. It says, don't just sit there and wait until somebody knocks on the door and offers you an opportunity, and then you say, wait a minute, I got to go pack my bags. That's what Tuskegee University does, man. And best of luck to you all and continue to do it. Thank you very much.